SuperTalk Mississippi media production.
Never take your heart health for granted. For just $99, you can get a complete screening and know your risks. Call 601-249-5198 to schedule your Happy Healthy Heart screening at Southwest Mississippi Regional Medical Center.
Oh, yeah.
Good morning, Mississippi.
Everything gonna be all right this morning.
Mornings with Richard Cross.
Oh, yeah.
Here on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Woo! Now, when I was a young boy, at the age of 5, my mother said I was gonna be the greatest man alive. But now I'm a man.
Welcome to the start of a new week. This is Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi. Thanks for joining us. Hope you had a great weekend. Maybe you got a chance to, I don't know, light up the grill this weekend. Maybe a chance to sit by the pool, get to the water, catch up on some honeydews, some stuff. If you're a college football fan, you don't have many weekends left with not much stuff to do, so maybe now's the time to knock out those last projects before your Saturdays get taken up. Hope it was a good weekend for you. Glad to have you along. We got a bunch to get to this morning. A lot going on. Dr. LouAnn Woodward from the University of Mississippi Medical Center will be by in the 7 o'clock hour. We got JT Mitchell coming in for a news update later on today as well, so a lot going on. Good morning, Lance.
Good morning. How is it? Is it winter up there yet? Because it feels very almost fall-y down here the last couple of days.
Does it really?
It has. It's been nice. Had a little breeze blowing, no humidity. Didn't pour down rain on us anywhere, and it wasn't 900 degrees. Like 85, 86. That kind of is like leading into the weather we're looking forward to. But, yeah, we've had a couple of fallish days around here. It's
funny you say that because I was just thinking a second ago, like, a week and a half ago, it felt really, really nice here. It was muggy this morning.
Yeah, it was a little stickier this morning. I noticed that, too. I had a little brow sweat coming in.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I think it's going to cook back up this week, so get ready. But, yeah, it was nice. Get to sit outside, didn't get eaten up, and I had a lot of fun. Didn't do much, honestly. Ate good, rested good, worked good, but ready for another good week here. Plenty to cover, like you said.
Ooh, isn't that the truth?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, you sound good and awake this morning. Like you got some sleep. You caught up a little bit, not groggy anymore.
Yeah,
ready to go.
Yeah, did a good job, man. It's Monday, chipper as an owl, as they say.
There you go. C-Spire text line open to you at 601-879-4395. In sports and in business, having the right team behind you matters. Partner with C-Spire today for business solutions from dedicated, certified IT engineers. Learn more at cspire.com. C-Spire, inspired by you. Tupelo, partly cloudy skies today, 92 degrees. Winds out of the east at 5 to 10 miles an hour. Over in the Delta, central, southern part of the Delta, Rolling Fork, partly cloudy skies for you today. High of 95. Your wind out of the east as well at 5 to 10 miles per hour. Laurel, mix of clouds and sun this morning, followed by some cloudy skies later this afternoon. You got a chance for a stray shower, maybe a thunderstorm, 92. And the great state of Liberty, Mississippi, mix of clouds and sun early, becoming cloudy later in the day. Stray shower, thunderstorm possible for you as well with a high of 91. Jeff in Grenada says Lance is bright-eyed and bushy-tailed this morning.
My mom would say that like every day going to school as a kid, even when I was like 18, 19, 20, 21. That's always the saying that she would come up with, like, you better be bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. Mm-hmm. I can be 50 and she'll say it to me. So, yeah.
There you go.
Great saying.
C-Spire text line, maybe I can hear the whole show today as I take trips to my new house as we move today. Oh, bless you, my friend.
Yes.
I mean, congratulations on the new digs. Hope you enjoy them. But moving day is a process.
Just got to be patient. Deal with it so much over the years with folks, and it can be a mountain to climb. And it is going to be, so you might as well just take it one step at a time.
Yeah. How about this one? Where did Perez go? He retired like 2 or 3 years ago.
Been a little bit. He still shows up, and I get to see him and scare him on Saturdays, you know.
There you go. Some birthdays today. Born on this day in 1965, Viola Davis, the Academy Award-winning actress, celebrated for powerful roles in The Help and How to Get Away with Murder. Hulk Hogan, rest his soul, was born on this day in 1953, the iconic professional wrestler and pop culture figure of the 80s and the 90s and, frankly, the 2000s and into the 2010s and even the 2020s. What a figure he was. Remember the name Steve Wozniak? Has not had nearly the accolades as Steve Jobs, but he was co-founder of Apple Computer and a pioneer of the personal computing revolution, born in 1950. Joe Rogan, maybe the most influential podcaster that exists today, comedian, UFC commentator, host of the Joe Rogan Experience, born on this day in 1967. And he's built a following.
Man, yeah. Would you, I mean, it's not even like it was a natural fit. I mean, a UFC commentator, comedian, but the role that he plays and the topics that he takes are so broad and vast.
Yeah.
That, I don't know of anyone out there that does the give and take, the interview side of it as well as he does, and allows topics just to kind of organically flow. You can look at him, watch him glass over at times, though, when he's like, okay.
Yeah.
He just kind of lets it go, though. And I find that to be a little refreshing in the day where you get led, it seems, so much in media.
Really bright guy.
Yeah.
Really bright guy. And inquisitive, like genuinely curious and asks questions and makes it happen. Donald in Oxford said, just tuned in and heard moving day. Woof.
Yeah.
We move my daughter in tomorrow to Ole Miss. I dread this like the plague. Hang in there, Donald. You'll get through it. Like Lance said, just patience.
Yeah, just one step at a time, man. It'll be over before you know it.
Got somebody else on the road today who is driving to Pontiac, Illinois, listening on the way. Thanks. Glad to have you along. Safe travels. Hope that's not part of the Midwest that got pounded by rain and flooding over the last couple of days. Ooh, Hattiesburg to Grenada says 2.5-hour ride one way from Hattiesburg to Grenada. Friend, if you were making it from Hattiesburg to Grenada in 2.5 hours,
it's cooking there.
You are picking them up and putting them down. This day in 1919, the Green Bay Packers Football Club was founded by George Calhoun and Curly Lambeau, of which Lambeau Field is named. I'm assuming. I'm just connecting the dots there. How did they get the name the Green Bay Packers? Well, it was a sponsorship deal. They were named after the sponsor, the Indian Packing Company, therefore the Green Bay Packers. Babe Ruth on this day in 1929 became the first Major League Baseball player as a New York Yankee to hit 500 home runs. Hit number 500 off Willis Hudlin in a 6-5 loss to the Indians at League Park in Cleveland. This day in 2008, the staying overnight somewhere industry began to change in ways that we couldn't imagine. 2008, we were still just rocking hotels. Airbnb, founded by Brian Chesky, Joe Gebbia, and Nathan Blicharczyk. You know, that crazy concept where, hey, you can rent somebody's house. You can rent a room in somebody's house. You an Airbnb guy, Lance? You ever?
I've done it a couple of times, yeah. It's hit or miss.
Remember, initially, though, it was great because, I say it was great, if you adopted it earlier, it was less expensive sometimes than a hotel room. That seems to have changed, but it is certainly a big deal. Airbnb and Vrbo. 2016, Michael Phelps, American super swimmer, wins the 200-meter individual medley. His time was 1:54.66. That was at the Rio Olympics and became the third athlete and the first swimmer to win 4 consecutive gold medals in one event. What
Amazing.
a talent.
Amazing.
On this day in 2020, a significant decision was made by Joe Biden and his campaign. He announced that U.S. Democrat candidate he was the Democrat candidate for president and announced that California Senator Kamala Harris would be his running mate. First woman of color selected by a major party candidate to be a running mate. And on this day in 2022, Merrick Garland, then the U.S. Attorney General, said that he personally approved the FBI search of Trump's property, Mar-a-Lago. On the same day, a Washington Post source said that the FBI search was for missing documents on nuclear weapons.
And Merrick Garland signed his pink slip.
Yeah, he did. He certainly did. So just a few things that happened on this day and some birthdays to look at as well. Just getting started with you this morning. We got news headlines. We got some sports headlines coming up and a whole lot more. We'll have your update from the Mississippi Lottery. Also, Dr. LouAnn Woodward, JT Mitchell stopping by. Thanks for joining us on this Monday morning, the 11th of August. It's Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
Keeping Mississippi in the know, one morning at a time. Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk, Mississippi.
Monday morning with you. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for being part of the conversation. C-Spire text line open at 601-879-4395. On Friday, health officials right here in Mississippi confirmed the first death from a human case of West Nile this year. While the Mississippi State Department of Health did not release the age or the identity of the deceased person, officials from the state agency did let us know that the person lived in Washington County. This year's first West Nile death comes a week earlier than happened a year ago when you had an August 15 death of West Nile. Last calendar year ended with 59 confirmed cases and 8 human deaths. So far this year, just 10 cases of West Nile have been confirmed by the State Department of Health, and according to health officials, the virus is primarily transmitted through the bite of an infected mosquito. You probably knew that as well, that mosquitoes were the most likely way to get West Nile. Hopefully those case numbers stay low this year. A Mississippi inmate who was on the run for a couple of months before being captured by U.S. Marshals in Chicago, has been sentenced to 55 years on state charges. The DeSoto County District Attorney's Office announced this past Thursday that Joshua Zimmerman was sentenced to half a century behind bars for an attempted murder charge in Mississippi. He previously had shot a South Haven resident before dropping the victim off at a local hospital. They added another 5 years for the escape from the DeSoto County Courthouse last summer. Zimmerman pleaded guilty to both charges. At the time of his escape, he was facing the attempted murder charge in Mississippi and was awaiting extradition to Texas for charges of murder and armed robbery. Not a good dude. He still awaits federal sentencing for the multi-state manhunt, a trial in Texas, and unresolved charges in Connecticut. Zimmerman escaped custody of law enforcement back on June 14th of 2024, with Matthew Barton, the DA in DeSoto County, revealing shortly afterward that his escape was partially the product of work from the inside. Camera footage was found to have been deleted from the courthouse. So he's behind bars for a long time with more to come. Applications for the 2026 Gulf Coast Restoration Fund are now closed. The money in that fund is part of the BP oil spill settlement that was received by the state of Mississippi back in September of 2018. The Mississippi Gulf Coast Restoration Fund has provided funding to businesses and organizations looking to bring increased economic activity to the Gulf Coast region. Eligible applicants include, but are not limited to, local government, NGOs, higher education institutions, community colleges, ports, airports, public-private partnerships, private for-profit entities, private non-profit entities, and local economic development groups. As shared by the Gulf Coast Business Council on Friday, with more than $383 million in requested funds for this application period, the public and regional leaders are encouraged to consider which projects should be recommended to the legislature for final funding. Let's go through that list. There were some significant funding requests, many of them in the 8-figure range. So we'll keep an eye on where that money goes in the days and weeks to come.
Boy, that was a mess, too. 2010, golly. The explosion killed 11 workers. I mean, I was one of those that I was very active in the financial world at the time, too, and it looked like the end of the world, Richard. You know? I mean, if you were really paying attention to all that was kind of unfolding, the severity of
Deepwater Horizon.
The Deepwater Horizon, yes, sir. And it was just, I mean, you felt like the end of the world was coming. It was like Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome or something was starting, but they were able to figure it out. And I mean, thank goodness the engineers were able to figure out how to cap that thing. It was a mess, though. Goodness gracious. Glad Mississippi is getting their fair share of what BP and the other two companies created there. But that was a disaster of epic proportions.
Flash flooding canceled the final day of the Wisconsin State Fair yesterday as continued heavy rainfall in half a dozen Midwest states forced motorists to abandon their vehicles, cut power to thousands of households, closed busy roadways. You've seen some of the images of that or seen that story, man. It's been rough in the Midwest the last couple of days. Organizers of the Wisconsin State Fair said they were scrapping the final day of the 11-day event after rains flooded the fairgrounds in West Allis, just outside Milwaukee. National Weather Service issued flood watches and warnings for parts of Kansas, Iowa, Nebraska, Missouri, Illinois, and Wisconsin. Rainfall got started on Saturday in some areas, and forecasters predicted repeated rounds of heavy rains along with hail, damaging winds, and isolated tornadoes that could last into today. Mentioned Milwaukee among the worst hit. Up to 14 inches of rain in some areas had fallen by midday yesterday. Also noted river flooding in Milwaukee and Waukesha counties. Some motorists just left their cars on the roadways with nearly 18,000 customers of We Energies in southeast Wisconsin out of power late into Sunday evening. On Saturday, strong winds led to the death of one person in eastern Nebraska after a tree fell on a woman's car in the state capital of Lincoln. The storms damaged 2 housing units at the Nebraska State Penitentiary, displaced 387 prisoners. Department of Correctional Services in Nebraska says that the agency, all staff and all incarcerated individuals were both safe and accounted for. So, good news there, I suppose. Just devastating.
Yeah, the whole southern half of the state, pretty much. And then as you go south from there into the other states. But what a terrible... you don't think of Wisconsin, Milwaukee, and Madison, and those areas as being flood prone, but man, when it starts coming, it does, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm. A Georgia man who had blamed the COVID-19 vaccine for making him depressed and suicidal has been identified as the shooter who opened fire late Friday on the United States Centers for Disease Control and Prevention headquarters. Killed a police officer. The 30-year-old suspect who died during the incident had also tried to get into the CDC's headquarters in Atlanta. He was stopped there by guards before driving to a pharmacy across the street and opening fire. The man, who was identified as Patrick Joseph White, was armed with 5 guns, one of them a long gun, at least one of them a long gun. Speaking on the that news came out on the condition of anonymity because they weren't supposed to be talking about it. A union representing workers at the CDC, though, has said that the incident was not random, and it compounds months of mistreatment, neglect, and vilification that CDC staff have endured, and demanded that federal officials condemn vaccine misinformation, saying that it was putting scientists at risk. I'm not sure that they're going to get that federal condemnation that they are hoping for, given the stance that HHS, under the leadership of Bobby Kennedy, has gone down with regard to vaccines, and specifically COVID vaccines. Big political event happening tonight in Rankin County. It's the annual Lincoln Reagan Trump dinner happening at the Sheraton Flowood, the Refuge Hotel and Conference Center there. Interesting. Keynote speaker for this event is Mississippi businessman and philanthropist Tommy Duff, who has been discussed a lot about a potential run for governor. Now, for his part, Tommy Duff has not admitted that he is running for governor, but he did say in a news interview a couple of weeks back that he wanted to do good for the state of Mississippi, and if there were enough people that wanted him to take a leadership role and it felt like it was the right time, then that's something that he would we'd consider. I don't know that you say secret kept. If it is, it's the worst secret that has ever been kept, but what an interesting dynamic. This is a big event. They have sold out, expecting a crowd of well over 500, maybe 600 tonight for that in Rankin County. And so we'll see what is said tonight by Tommy Duff when he speaks at that dinner. And, of course, we'll bring it to you tomorrow morning. Speaking of this week, just wanted to let you know that on Wednesday morning, Governor Tate Reeves will join the show. We'll be in studio in Jackson for that conversation a little after 7 o'clock. He'll join us, and we'll hit a bunch of topics with the governor. Looking forward to that conversation as we continue to look at the economic development work that's happening in the state of Mississippi. I would imagine that we will get into the school choice conversation, which is expected to dominate the legislative session, at least in terms of a headline this coming year. A couple of comments that have been made that have caused people to speculate as to whether or not we could have a special session before the 2026 legislative session comes along. We'll ask the governor about that possibility. Not sure that it's likely, but it is a possibility. Those are your news headlines. We'll take a look at sports headlines when we come back. Mornings with Richard Cross, Super Talk, Mississippi. Thanks for joining the ride.
From the
SeabrookPayne.FM. Is going next. Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk, Mississippi.
Time for your morning sports update right here on Mornings with Richard Cross, brought to you by Pearl River Resort. Visit them online at pearlriverresort.com, your destination for casino thrills, family fun, and live entertainment. We are getting to the point that our sports weekends are becoming a little bit busier. This was the first full weekend of the NFL preseason. Got started back on Thursday night with the Ravens beating the Colts, the Eagles beating the Bengals, and a tie between the Raiders and the Seahawks. Friday saw three more games, with the Lions topping the Falcons. Pretty rough injury in that one. The Browns over the Panthers. It was that Lions-Falcons game where both teams decided to just run out the clock after that serious injury in the ball game. And the Patriots score 48 points in a preseason game en route to a big win over the Washington Commanders. On Saturday, You got the debut in Buffalo, New York, of the new New York Giants quarterback and former Ole Miss star Jackson Dart, and it was a pretty darn good debut. 12 of 19 for 154 yards and a touchdown. And, Lance, the more things change, the more they stay the same. The conversation, or at least part of the conversation after the game with Jackson Dart was, hey, bro, why don't you slide a little bit more?
Yeah,
don't take those big hits.
Have fun teaching that to him.
Yeah,
he loves the action. But 6'4", 225.
Yeah,
he thinks he can do it, and that's a pretty sizable kid. So
he also carried the ball 3 times for 24 yards. Was the leading rusher for the Giants in the game. Russell Wilson got the start. Jackson Dart played a significant amount of time. Then you got Tommy DeVito and Jameis Winston all in the game. 3 passing touchdowns in total for the Giants in that victory.
Hey, did you see as Dart went, he had Tommy DeVito with him. They went into the end zone after the game, and he was visiting with his mom. Mm-hmm. And Tommy DeVito looks like a leprechaun compared to Jackson Dart. I mean, it's hard to, Jackson just doesn't look that big until you see him up next to other people. You're like, man, that dude's a big old boy there. But, yeah, it was funny seeing DeVito. I was like, man, that is a little guy. Then you think, okay, well, yeah, Dart's 6'4". Big difference.
And it's still hard for me to feel like Dart's actually 6'4".
Yeah,
it's
hard.
I've stood next to him and talked to him so many times, and it is if it's possible to be an undersized 6'4", maybe that's it. But good debut for Jackson Dart. A lot of people think that at some point this season he is going to be the starting quarterback for the Giants. Russell Wilson has that job going into the year. Chargers beat the Saints 27-13. The Saints started Spencer Rattler for most of the first half, then turned it over to Tyler Shugg. He had a touchdown and an interception in the game. The debut for Quinn Ewers, the former Texas quarterback with the Miami Dolphins, not great, as the Bears and the Dolphins had a tie at 24 apiece. Quinn Ewers 5 of 18 throwing the football and did not look all that comfortable.
Yeah, he's one of those that's just, to me, there's times where he looks like a superstar, and then there are times where he looks extremely just overmatched.
Mm-hmm.
And he was a little bit overmatched on Sunday.
That's right.
The Bears, though, 24 points, not bad. What do you think about the Bears? Do you think they're going to have a decent season? And there's always speculation out there, but
there's a lot of good on that.
There's a lot of good players there.
Yeah. Somebody said Jackson Dart's 6'2". What's he officially listed as?
Yeah. They say 6'4", 225 is what, But again, I stood up next to Shea Patterson, and people were saying he was 6'2". I'm 6'4", and that guy was not 5'10", So, I don't know.
You're right.
Yeah, so it depends on who's asking, I guess, and who's telling.
Yeah. It's like Dart officially listed at 6'2", which makes more sense to me.
Yeah,
I didn't remember him being taller than me when we But
anyway, well, he's still way.
Regardless,
it's hard to believe DeVito though,
and thick as well.
Yeah, he's pretty thick.
Maybe that speaks more to DeVito.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I didn't know he was that small.
Size. A couple of Mississippi State former baseball players being honored for the passion that they put into the game of baseball at the professional level. Earlier this week, I guess late last week, Major League Baseball's Player Alumni Association announced individual winners of the 2025 Heart and Hustle Award. Brent Rooker from the Oakland Athletics and Jake Mangum from the Tampa Bay Rays were both selected for the award that goes to 30 different players before in mid-November a league-wide winner is selected and announced. According to Major League Baseball, the award is presented to players who exemplify a true passion for the game and best embody the value, spirit, and traditions of the game. I'd say those two guys fit the bill.
Yeah.
Rooker coming off his second Major League Baseball All-Star selection. Leads the A's with 23 home runs this year. Mangum has had quite the rookie season. Battled injury a little bit. It's been up and down a couple of times. Hitting .280 with a few web gems along the way.
Two of my favorite state players, though, of all time, especially in the modern era, those two guys. Love watching Rooker in college. You could see that he had the ability for it to translate to the big leagues. With Mangum, though, he was just such a great player. You didn't really know if he was going to be able to get there or not. So glad to see that he is getting a fair shot because he is a heck of a player, man. And
it took a while.
Yeah, it took a little while. That's the way it is sometimes.
And all he's done since he was like 8 is just hit.
Yeah, that's what he's a machine, man. Absolutely.
He hit as a junior, a young player. He hit as a high school player. He hit at Mississippi State, the all-time hits leader in the SEC. He hit at every level of minor league baseball, and go figure, hitting 280 as a rookie in the big leagues, the kid can hit.
I had one guy I played with throughout my whole college career. Now, I had played with a bunch of good ones, but there was one dude, and he reminded me of Mangum the way that he could just hit anything, anywhere. It didn't matter. His name is Brad Henderson. Has a few hits. Got a couple records, I think, from doing
he does.
that.
The all-time hits leader at Ole Miss.
Yeah, that guy could hit anything, man. I mean, had the hat in the back pocket, and good old boy. But, man, he could hit.
Ole Miss linebacker Tyler Banks will be the next Rebel to have the honor of wearing number 38 in remembrance of Chucky Mullins. He's a senior from Virginia, named the winner of the award on Thursday night by Ole Miss head coach Lane Kiffin. The 3-year letter winner is the 35th recipient in the 36-year history of the award. Plans to wear the number 38 jersey throughout the season. Not going to do the patch, not going to do it home and away, but he's going to wear 38. And is taking the torch from J.J. Pegues, who won the award a year ago. Sponsored by Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity, honors the late Chucky Mullins, who had his Ole Miss career come to an end during the 1989 homecoming game in Oxford against Vanderbilt when he was paralyzed after tackling Commodore tight end Brad Gaines. He returned to his studies at Ole Miss, passed away in May of 1991. Hey. About Tyler Banks, Lane Kiffin said, this guy shows up every day for his teammates on the field, and he's proven it lately off the field to show up for people. I think it's a tremendous story for him just being here and fighting through adversity and everything not going exactly the way maybe he wanted it to when he came out of high school, which is what's going to happen the rest of your life. Went on to say it's not going to go the way you want it to, and all this guy does is continue to show up, continue to battle, continue to improve his place, play whatever role it is, whatever field it is, whatever special team it is. And I couldn't think of a better guy to win this than Tyler Banks.
Hey, that guy, we're talking about another big dude, 6'2", 245. He's the epitome of a brick outhouse. I mean, that guy is a load. Can't wait to see him as a senior this year. I think he's ready to roll.
Yep. It was cool to see the video of him as well.
Oh, that was awesome,
Just the raw emotion that went along with it. Yesterday marked the end of the first of the FedEx Cup playoff events on the PGA Tour. They played it in Memphis, the FedEx St. Jude Championship. And, man, it delivered some drama yesterday. Final round of 67 for Justin Rose, but he really heated up on the back with birdies on 14, 15, 16, and 17 before parring the 18th hole and finishing in a two-way tie with J.J. Spawn at 16 under par. So different playoff formats in different places, like when you have to have you got two that are tied at the end. In Memphis, they just play the 18th over and over and over again. So that's the final hole of regulation. Both Rose and Spawn made pars on the first playoff hole, 18. They re-racked it on 18. Then both of them made a 3. Then one of the grounds crew guys, an agronomist, came out and he moved the cup. We're not going to keep playing at the exact same spot, so they moved it to a different location on the green. And Justin Rose rolled in a birdie putt for a 3. J.J. Spawn could not answer, and so the Englishman Justin Rose, the winner of the PGA event in Memphis, the FedEx St. Jude Championship. J.J. Spawn finishes in second. Tied for third with Scotty Scheffler and Tommy Fleetwood. For Scheffler, the undoing was a couple of missed putts, a couple of missed birdie putts, particularly on 15, one that just burned the edge of the cup. He did birdie 16 and 18 coming in to get within one shot of the lead, but would not be part of the playoff. Tommy Fleetwood, who had 63s or had a 63 and a 64 in the first two rounds of the tournament, shot 69 yesterday, but a bogey on 17 knocked him out of the playoff. It was a good field. Ricky Fowler and Akshay Bhatia both finished tied for 6th. That did Andrew Novak, who's had a big year. Good showing in Memphis for the FedEx St. Jude Championship. They are headed next to Chicago, and then they'll finish it out with the Tour Championship in Atlanta at East Lake in a couple of weeks. Those are your sports headlines brought to you by Pearl River Resort, pearlriverresort.com.
Hey, you saw where Eli pranked everybody doing the FedEx delivery driver. It was the best.
Fantastic.
That was awesome.
It was fantastic. Mornings of Richard Cross rolls on after this. Got a lottery update. Then we'll get you set for the 7 o'clock hour. Back on MRC after this timeout.
From the Venable
No filibuster. Just everything you need to know to start your day smarter. Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk, Mississippi.
Daily Lottery Update brought to you by the Mississippi Lottery. Find them online at mslottery.com. No jackpot winner on Lotto America. It's up to a little over $2 million. Remember that one just reset last week. Cash value tonight, $930,000. Now for the Powerball, pot's right. Estimated jackpot for tonight's drawing, 501. That's right, $501 million. With an estimated cash value of $229.5 million. Saturday night's numbers, these were pretty good ones on Saturday night, but nobody matched them. 7, 14, 23, 24, and 60. The Powerball was 14. The multiplier was 2. But nobody there, so it rolls over. Lance, I'm curious if this is going to be one of those jackpots that, big number, somebody hits it, somebody gets really rich, or if this was one of those that's going to roll for a while.
I have no feeling. Yeah, I have no feeling yet.
Big number.
I'm hoping it's like one of the $1 billion ones.
Those are fun.
Yeah.
Those are really fun. But the biggest one a few years ago out in California, not after taxes, but the cash value was like $995 million or something like that on a $2 billion jackpot. It's been rough for that cat, though. Man, he's had people trying to take his winnings. Had a guy try to claim that it was his ticket. Couldn't prove it.
Yeah, good luck on that.
Yeah, I mean, just a lot of tough stuff going on there, though. Mega Millions, that comes around on Tuesday. $182 million is the jackpot for that. Now, last week the lottery claims office paid out. Man, we got to hit them harder than this. Only paid out $395,000 last week, but retailers paid out nearly $5 million. So $501 million, the estimated cash value for tonight. I'm sorry, the jackpot for tonight. Mississippi lottery players have been on a Powerball hot streak with 4 winners last month, taking home a combined $400,000 in cash prizes. One lottery player tripled their $50,000 win up to $150K just for getting the $1 power play option with the 3X multiplier. Powerball tickets are $2, and for $1 more, you can add that power play option. Be sure to get your ticket for tonight's drawing. And a bunch of winners on the $20 200X cash blitz. That scratch off. Players from Charleston, Loosedale, Ridgeland, and Coffeyville all won $1,000 on tickets that they got at GPM, Super Saver, Hoy Road, Chevron, and Chevron Express in Coffeyville. So there you go. That's your Mississippi Lottery update. Find them online at mslottery.com. Again, that's mslottery.com. So what's coming up this morning? Well, the redistricting / gerrymandering debate rages on. You got the governor of Texas telling you that I don't really care how long the Democrats stay out of the state house in Texas. I'm going to keep calling special sessions. I'll let you hear from him. J.B. Pritzker, the governor of Illinois, was doing the morning talk show routine yesterday. He was on Meet the Press. And, he managed to dodge some questions. And then you had Kathy Hochul, the mayor. Actually, she's the governor of New York, talking about how it was different when New York did their gerrymandering as opposed to what Texas is trying to do. And then there is Attorney General Eric Holder, who, and I can't wait to play that for you. The combination of saying one thing and then immediately saying the opposite thing, but justifying the opposite thing which you say, and doing that in less than a minute? Pretty impressive, actually. I mean, like, turn on a 180 and justify it. And that's what former Obama AG Eric Holder was able to do. Dr. LouAnn Woodward is going to join us. We'll get an update from UMMC. She had an op-ed last month that reminded people in no uncertain terms that Jackson is UMMC's home, and it will be moving forward. That question had arisen a little bit. We'll get into that. Fascinating financial arrangement between the United States and one of the largest chip makers in the world. I don't know that we've seen anything quite like that. JT Mitchell will join us in the 8 o'clock hour as well with a look at what the news team's covering this week. That's all coming up as we continue with you. Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi. The news is coming up next. Don't forget the C Spire text line is open to you. 601-879-4395. 601-879-4395. C Spire, inspired by you. We'll take a time out. 7 o'clock hour is on the way. We're back right after this.
The views and opinions expressed by the hosts, guests, and callers on this show are not the opinions of TeleSouth Communications, its management, or advertisers.
Pour yourself a cup of coffee and get the Magnolia State's most important news of the day. Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Well, I used to wake the morning before the rooster crowed, searching for soda bottles to get myself some dough. Run 'em down to the corner, down to the country store, cash 'em in and give my money to a man named Curtis Lowe.
Oh, the Ballad of Curtis Lowe. Good morning, Leonard Skinner, and good morning to you. It's Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi. Play that old dobro across his knee, Lance.
I love it. A great song.
Good to be with you this morning. Thanks for joining us. C Spire text line is always open to you at 601-879-4395. 601-879-4395. Looking for game-changing technology? You need C Spire on your team. 5G wireless, fiber home internet, and business IT solutions built as tough as your defense. Learn more at cspire.com. C Spire, inspired by you. This hour of Mornings with Richard Cross is brought to you by MWG Employer Services. We've told you about them for a long time, but do you really know what MWG Employer Services does? If you work in the HR realm, or you're handling the payroll and the benefits for your company, you're probably familiar with MWG Employer Services. But what about from an employee standpoint? Like, you're not in charge of that, but you want to know how many days that you have off. You want to know what your benefits are and your company insurance or whatever. Well, they've got a really easy-to-use portal that is specifically designed for your company to make sure that it's easy. And you just go right into that. You log in, and you can see all the information that you've got. It's just part of what MWG Employer Services does. Running a business is tough, and if you're struggling with HR benefits and payroll, you're not alone. They can help at MWG Employer Services, 601-206-7966. That's 601-206-7966. Let's hear from some of the newsmakers from the weekend. Texas Governor Greg Abbott was on Fox News Sunday with Shannon Bream, And he talked a little bit about what he was going to do moving forward. You know, Democrat lawmakers in the Texas House of Representatives have left the state. They've been hanging out in Illinois. Thought it was a little too warm in Texas this time of year. Wanted to go to a little bit cooler environment. And they're doing it because they don't want to vote on the new congressional map that is going to likely give Republicans 5 more seats based on where people live in the state of Texas. Now, this 30-day special session doesn't have a whole lot left in it, but Greg Abbott says, oh, no bother.
So first, this could literally last years because in Texas, I'm authorized to call a special session every 30 days. It lasts 30 days. And as soon as this one is over, I'm going to call another one, then another one, then another one, then another one. If they show back up in the state of Texas, they will be arrested and taken to the Capitol. If they want to evade that arrest, they're going to have to stay outside of the state of Texas for literally years. And they might as well just start voting in California or voting in Illinois, wherever they may be. And that will aid and support the lawsuit that I filed in the Texas Supreme Court saying that these lawmakers have abandoned their seat because we are incapable of conducting business for the people of Texas because they have fled. This is the most un-Texan thing we've ever seen. In Texas, from the time of the Alamo until today, Texas stand and fight.
All right. He invoked the Alamo.
Yeah.
He went all the way back to the Alamo. This is the most un-Texan thing we've ever seen. They are running and hiding. They are not standing and voting.
They've done it before, yeah.
Greg Abbott says this can last as long as they want to do it. Because the Constitution of Texas gives me the opportunity to call a special session. A special session lasts 30 years. And when that one's over, I can call another one and another and another and another, and says he will just keep doing that until either those legislators come back to vote or the Texas Supreme Court rules and says, yes, they have abdicated their seats. They are derelict of duty, and therefore they can be removed, in which case they're either replaced or the quorum number changes. I don't know. We'll see where that ultimately goes.
No, well, this is the 4th try, 1979, 2003, and 2021, that Texas Democrats have done the nuclear option of walking out. So,
yeah.
It doesn't work well, but they like using it. So.
Well, you know, if you can't beat them, run. I mean, there's if you can't beat them, join them.
Yeah,
and then there is if you can't beat them, run. You have news anchors who are generally sympathetic in the way they ask questions to the left side of the aisle. But even people like Kristen Welker and Caitlin Collins are starting to ask questions. Hey, you're saying this, but you've already kind of done this. Isn't there some hypocrisy here? Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker on Meet the Press yesterday with Welker asking the question.
I do want to look at the map of Illinois. Let's take a look at this. Despite President Trump winning 44% of the statewide vote in 2024, Republicans hold only 3 of Illinois' 17 districts. These districts seem to be designed to maximize Democratic advantage. What do you say to those who argue that it's hypocritical for you to criticize Texas for partisanship when your state also drew maps to boost your party's standing?
Well, remember that what Texas is trying to do is, again, violate the Voting Rights Act. We didn't. We held public hearings, legislative hearings. People attended them. They spoke out. There was a map that was put out. There were actually changes made to the map. And a map was passed, and it was done at the end of the census, the decennial census. So that's how it's done in this country. You talked about how rare it is to do what he's doing. Yes, it is. What's even rarer is to do it at the behest of the President of the United States, who's clearly attempting to and says that he deserves to have 5 more seats. He's wrong.
J.B. Pritzker, he deserves to have 5 more seats. There are 17 congressional districts in the state of Illinois. In the presidential election of 2024, Donald Trump garnered 44% of the statewide vote. 3 of the seats are Republican seats in the state of Illinois. Isn't it a little hypocritical, Governor Pritzker, for you to condemn Texas? Well, Texas didn't do it the right way because, you see, we had hearings and we let people speak their mind, and then we passed it with the overwhelming Democrat majority in your House. Yeah, you passed it, pal. Good work. And then there was another question from Kristen Welker, and once again, J.B. Pritzker. Let's see. We got this one ready to go. So a 14-3 congressional seat advantage for J.B. Pritzker. I don't know if that's going to play for me. I wanted it to, but it's not loading the way that I had hoped that it would. C-Spire text line open. Here we go. Here's Kristen Welker again.
Congressional maps gives your state an F. Common Cause, a nonpartisan government watchdog, even says your map, and I'm going to quote, represents a nearly perfect model for everything that can go wrong with redistricting. And I guess the question is, you talk about preserving democracy. How do you preserve democracy if you're using the same tactics that you've criticized Texas Republicans for?
But as I say, what they're talking about is a distraction. The reality is that the violation of people's voting rights is what Texas is attempting to do. That's what's wrong with their efforts right now. And the fact that the President of the United States knows it and nevertheless is asking them to do it. That is what's wrong with what we're seeing right now. Democracy is at stake.
Oh. We're back to it, Lance.
There we go, buddy.
It has been
full circle. Would have been 6 months.
It's been a couple of months, but either the thought is you're too dumb to remember, or they're too dumb to remember. Remember, threat to democracy.
Yeah, they run out of talking points, buddy.
That was the center square on the bingo card during the last presidential election. A threat to democracy. 7 months later, here we are again. Republicans threaten the old democracy one more time. By the way, has the democracy made it for the first 7 months of President Trump's tenure?
We have a monarchy now, yes, a monarchy.
Oh. Well, is it, or is it an oligarchy? Ooh. I can't remember which archy it is. Noah's archy? I don't know. We will visit with Dr. LouAnn Woodward coming up next. Dean of the Medical School at UMMC and Vice Chancellor as well. We're back right after this.
From the Venable Glass Traffic.
Shaping Mississippi politics each morning. Mornings with Richard Cross. Super Talk, Mississippi.
If I only had a dollar for every song I sung, every time I had to play while people said.
So we're going from Leonard Skinner to CCR on a Monday morning?
Why not?
Yes. I have no complaints. Glad to be with you. It's Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk Mississippi. Lance, are you most proud that I was actually able to properly name 2 bands in a row without cheating?
You nailed it.
Yeah, there we go.
Very proud.
Thanks for joining us. C-Spire text line is open at 601-879-4395. We have our first guest, not just of the day, but of the week. You know her well, Dr. LouAnn Woodward, Dean of the School of Medicine at the University of Mississippi Medical Center, and a Vice Chancellor, and she's a doctor also. Good morning, Dr. Woodward. How are you?
Good morning. Good morning. So glad to be with you today.
Good to be with you as well. Can you pull the microphone?
Yeah, I'm sorry. That's my fault.
I
didn't pull the mic over for her. That was my
There we go.
I was too busy politicking.
There we go. Is this better?
That
makes it better. We had you, but it was like you were off in a cave a little bit. So those microphones get in the way sometimes.
All righty. Glad to be here.
Let's start with a piece that you wrote recently. It was published on SuperTalk.fm and other places, an op-ed affirming that UMMC is not going anywhere. How in the world did we get to the point where you had to write this, or you needed to remind people that Jackson is home and we're not going anywhere?
So let me tell you, we recently opened and are building some clinical facilities in Ridgeland. And I think that is what kind of set off this narrative of, well, the medical center is leaving Jackson. Medical center's leaving Jackson. Now, we have opened clinics in lots of other places around the state and didn't get that same reaction. But I think, just the proximity or whatever, it just sort of set off this reaction that at first, I'll tell you, annoyed me because I thought, oh my gosh, look at all these things we're doing. And, somebody's focused on just this and making a, with partial information, kind of making this story. But then I thought, well, maybe that's my fault that people have partial information. Maybe I need to really kind of put out a more complete story about some of the things that are happening. So, maybe shame on me for not doing that every so often, once a year or so, on what's happening at the medical center, because it's constant. We are expanding in areas around the state, all the time. And so for one or two things to really get highlighted as if that was all we're doing, just, is because I think people don't know. So it was in part a reaction, but then also really just a chance to think, this is something I ought to do. I need to get this out there, and let people know what we're doing. You get you get tunnel vision in your daily work and the things that you're doing and talking about every single day, and you just kind of feel like, well, everybody should know this. This is all we're talking about. Yeah. But in fact, that's not. So it was a good opportunity, I think, to talk about a little, and you can only put so much in an article like that. You start out and it's way too long, you have to trim it back. But to try to touch on why we do things in certain areas, why some things are better to be on the Jackson campus and some things are better to be out in the communities. So a little bit about the why, but also just some of the plans that we have. We have, in the last couple of years, done a lot in Jackson and all around the state. But the bottom line, the point I was really trying to make, and just the real bottom line is we are constantly evaluating opportunities to expand in different locations, but we're also growing and expanding on the Jackson campus. And when I welcome new employees, typically on Monday mornings, if I'm not here on Monday morning, but typically on Monday mornings, I do a welcome to new employees. And the way I word it is, the Jackson campus there at 2500 North State Street, that's the mothership. And it has been since 1955, and it will always be. That is the main campus.
Well, and it certainly is not uncommon for mothership medical centers to have affiliates or satellite locations in other places. But seeing the footprint grow to almost statewide, or maybe absolutely statewide, is a little unique. Maybe it's not unique. Maybe that is a more common thing. But I'm wondering if that's where some of the confusion came from. They're like, well, hold on, UMMC in Grenada?
Where are they going?
That's
right.
Or
that's
in the Delta? Well, how does this make sense?
So there are a lot of states that have a larger population and, more services and in fact have multiple academic medical centers within the state. There are a few states that tend to be like us with a lower population, more rural, that have one academic medical center in the state. So I think that is one of the things that makes a difference. We are the only academic medical center in the state. And if an entity is going to have a clinic somewhere else around the state, for example, for patients to have some of their pre-op or post-op care around transplant, well, that's going to be us. So our state, we in fact do have a statewide reach when you look at our different services, whether it's telehealth or in-person patient services or even the places where our students go out in the community to train. The different connections we have, in fact, touch all 82 counties in Mississippi. Yeah. We have a presence in every county in Mississippi. And it might not be that way if we were a bigger place and Mississippi had 2 or 3 academic medical centers, but we only have one. Sure. And so we try to do a lot of things to really address, especially that rural population, and to have those connections all across the state. I mentioned this in my article, but I grew up in a rural part of the state, Carroll County. I was up there this weekend, made a quick little weekend loop through Carroll County, Grenada, and Oxford. Got to see some people. But that's where I grew up, a very rural part of the state. And as you mentioned, I'm a physician, and I've worked in our emergency department, our adult emergency department at the medical center for 20 some odd years. And through both of those past experiences that have clearly shaped my life, I feel like I have a deep understanding of the challenges we have in getting health care out to all the people across the state. Right. In some of the rural parts of the state, is just really a challenge to get transportation to get somewhere. So the more that we can extend our reach and try to meet people, out where they are, I think that's better for the patients.
Different but similar. I feel like sometimes UMMC's affiliation with the University of Mississippi is frowned on by some people. They're like, this should just be a standalone entity. It shouldn't be that Ole Miss has the medical school. What is the relationship between if we go back and use your term again, mothership, the Oxford campus, the Ole Miss campus in Oxford, with the Jackson campus of UMMC and that relationship and how it exists?
So it is established by legislation. By our enabling legislation at the medical center, we are a department of the University of Mississippi. So that is how it sort of came to be. The original component was a 2-year med school. So we started as a 2-year med school in 1903 that was housed on the Oxford campus. So really? Students would go to school there for 2 years, and then they would go for their last 2 years somewhere else, Memphis, Tulane, wherever. They'd go wherever they went. So in the 50s, the Mississippi legislature, in an effort to have ultimately more physicians in Mississippi, they felt like Mississippi needed a 4-year med school. And that the legislature needed to build a teaching hospital to go with the 4-year med school. So the decision was made by the legislators to move the med school to Jackson, establish a 4-year med school, and to open a teaching hospital. And that's what opened there at 2500 North State Street in 1955. And interestingly, in the process of this percolating through the legislative process, there was a House committee, and I don't know which committee it was, if it was education, if it was public health, I don't know, where the vote passed by a single vote. In fact, it was a lady legislator who'd been in a wreck who had to be wheeled in to cast that one single vote. So by one vote in the Mississippi legislature in the 1950s by a lady, we are here on this campus and have this huge presence that we have. So that is sort of the structure. My boss is the chancellor. So Chancellor Glenn Boyce is my boss. And he and I work together very well. We've worked together for years, even before he became my boss in his prior roles with IHL and other things. But we work together very well. He is just as supportive of the medical center as he can possibly be. He is so enthusiastic and so supportive and doing a lot of work to help us with this cancer project. He tells people, and this is when it's really sincere, he tells people when we're not in the room even, that cancer is the top priority for the university right now. Wow. So he is extremely supportive, and we work together very closely, and even have a couple of joint programs that we share in pharmacy and nursing.
We will continue the conversation with Dr. LouAnn Woodward coming up in just a moment, Dean of the School of Medicine at the University of Mississippi Medical Center. And we'll talk a little bit more about that cancer project and where that is in terms of continued progress. Back after this with you on Mornings with Richard Cross.
From the SeabrookPaint.com.
Mornings with Richard Cross is brought to you by Covington County Hospital in Collins, where your health matters.
Mornings with Richard Cross, here on SuperTalk Mississippi.
What else?
And always on the SuperTalk app.
Let the midnight special shine a light on me.
Mornings with Richard Cross, SuperTalk, Mississippi. Glad to be with you. Dr. LouAnn Woodward is my guest, Dean of the School of Medicine at UMMC, Vice Chancellor at the University of Mississippi, and a still practicing physician, at least some of the time, when time allows for it. I want to go back to where we were before the break. You were talking about Glenn Boyce, and I feel like because of his leadership style, even though he's been in the position of Chancellor at Ole Miss for half a decade now, that there's still some mystery around him because he works quietly. He is not in the public spotlight all the time. Tell us about the way he operates as the leader of the university.
So I can tell you what I've observed, both with him in this role and then when I knew him before. He works endlessly. Let me just say that. He is, he's one of those people that I'm constantly saying, I hope you're going to take this weekend off and get a little bit of rest. He works tirelessly and endlessly, but like you said, is a little bit more of the, kind of, not necessarily just out he is not seeking the spotlight, maybe is the best way to word that. He is not out there making it about him and seeking the spotlight by any means, but he is just tirelessly, constantly working for the university, for the medical center, really for education in Mississippi as a whole. But he is collaborative, easy to reach, easy to talk to, does not try to micromanage, wants to understand what's going on and then basically just wants to know, how can I help? So it has really been a pleasure to work with him this last, as you said, now half of a decade.
Yeah. It goes in a hurry. We were talking about the affiliation that UMMC has. And when I say affiliation, I mean it's part of the University of Mississippi. But right. it is unique in that students from schools all over the state of Mississippi come to the medical center, whether it's Mississippi State or Southern Miss or Alcorn State or Jackson State or any of the other schools within the state. That makes it a little unique.
It is. We take students from every single university, community college in the state of Mississippi, and even some outside the state of Mississippi. And we've talked before. Several of our schools require you be an in-state student, an in-state resident, but you could go to college out of state and then come back. But so we take students from all of the Mississippi schools and colleges, and we partner with especially the larger ones. I can't say all, but with many of the universities and colleges in the state in different areas like research, et cetera. So we have a number of research partnerships with other universities. I think being in that healthcare space, there's just a lot of synergy in different pockets with different universities. So we partner very well and happily with all the different colleges and universities, both in the standpoint of research, as I said, and then through different student programs, all of which the Chancellor is very supportive. He has never had the approach of, we only want you to work with us. He realizes the benefit of us partnering with others, when it's a good fit and benefits the state.
The Cancer Institute.
Yes.
We have talked a little bit about this in the past with you and some of your colleagues at UMMC. You mentioned a second ago it's the initiative that you're most focused on. Mm-hmm. It is the initiative that Dr. Boyce is focused on. I think the legislature has taken certainly a big interest in this as well. Remind us exactly what it is that you are working toward, and then let's talk about how we're getting there.
So, and I kind of went over this a couple of weeks ago. I had it may have been now almost a month ago. You know how time flies. But early in his new term, we had the opportunity to sit down with our new Jackson mayor and kind of give him this overview. it's several fold what we're doing. The ultimate goal is what's called NCI designation, National Cancer Institute designation, and that is a research-based designation. That is kind of the key that opens the door to becoming one of these cancer centers that are in that club that you think of when you think of those places that people go when they need that extra care, whether it's MD Anderson, UAB, Vanderbilt. All of those are NCI designated cancer centers. As one of those,
and even, forgive me for interrupting,
No.
but even outside of this region where those places are so familiar, we're also talking about Sloan Kettering and Johns Hopkins and UCLA Medical Center, the elite of the elite nationally.
Right. So, and that NCI designation means that you have in your institution a certain sort of horsepower in research strength. And because of that, when you submit your application, if you are awarded that designation, you have access to clinical trials and other things that people who are not NCI designated centers do not have. So that's the North Star. That's what we are working toward. Now, in the efforts toward that achievement, there are lots of different things going on, and one of the pieces that probably people hear the most about is a facility, a cancer facility to bring all of our cancer services together, whether it's radiation oncology, whether it's infusion treatments, whether it's clinics or what have you, to bring all of that together. And we've got a large philanthropic campaign going on now. The projected cost of this cancer center is $250 million. And since we started talking about Jackson, let me be sure to add that the identified site is there across the street from our campus, next to the American Cancer Society Hope Lodge, right there between the medical center and the stadium parking lot. So it is on State Street, just on the west side where that stadium campus is right now, and the parking. But there's green space along there where Schimmel's restaurant used to be, et cetera, and that's the identified site. So again, a huge investment in Jackson. But the projected cost is $250 million. We have a fundraising campaign that's technically it's in the quiet phase, but I'm talking about it a lot. So I'm not.
If you want to be part of the quiet phase, we're happy to talk about it out loud.
I am not. I'm not really adhering to the rules of the quiet phase because I'm talking about it a lot. But we're in the quiet phase of that to raise $125 million. So to raise half of the funds for that facility. How far along are you? So we are at, as of about a few weeks ago, we are at $60 million.
Okay.
So the quiet phase so far has been very successful.
It's incredible stuff. I was thinking as you were talking about going after that NCI designation, good grief, it's probably been 30 years ago now, but when Robert Kyatt took on the role as chancellor, he took on a pretty audacious goal from an academic standpoint of establishing a Phi Beta Kappa chapter at Ole Miss. And almost all of his decisions, or at least many of his decisions, were informed by, does this help us get closer to that goal? Is this a similar chase?
It is. It is. You know, at the medical center, there are so many things that are going on, and a number of strategic priorities. Growing our transplant program, continuing to grow our pediatrics program. You know, these are all important strategic priorities. But at the top of the list, and where we are putting all the efforts, is that cancer. I mean, you just, you know, if you don't focus on these critically important things like that, you just can't line everything up to achieve that goal. And we intend to achieve that goal. I'm confident that we will.
Somebody wants to know if there could be a crosswalk in the future over State Street in the Woodrow Wilson area for the safety of students with all this construction you're discussing.
So let me just talk about that for a second, if that's okay, because this is boy, people ask this question all the time. So the answer is possibly. It depends on so first of all, you have to remember State Street is a U.S. highway. That's Highway 51, so that adds a little bit of complication. But if there is a building on that side of campus that it would make sense to connect to a building on the medical center side of campus, then that is a feasible possibility. Something that is possible. What we have learned and what we have been told, we've had in the past, and I can't speak for forever, but I can speak for about 20 years. In the past, we've had several we've had several traffic studies done on the campus, both vehicle, pedestrian, and wayfinding, all of those things. And in fact, we're about to kick off another one. But what we have been told in the past is that if it is a freestanding crosswalk, meaning on one side you have to walk up steps, walk over, and then walk down steps, that people just won't do it. They will go under it every time because it's faster. So they've convinced us that would not be a good use of funds. But we are considering, would there be buildings? Yes.
Hold that thought.
Absolutely.
We'll finish up on the other side of the break. It's Mornings with Richard Cross. Dr. LouAnn Woodward from UMMC is my guest.
From the Venable Glass.
Start your day right. Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
All right, so we left it off with a walkover on State Street. If you build it, they may not necessarily come. But if it's attached to two buildings, then it is a very real possibility. Just a couple of minutes left with Dr. LouAnn Woodward. Always enjoy the conversations and appreciate your time. One of the things that we've not talked about this morning is your role with the legislature. And we are in a time where the debate over Medicaid and Medicaid funding seems to happen year after year after year. Much of the funding, or at least a significant amount of the funding for UMMC, comes through allocations from the legislature. Where are you in terms of your relationship with the elected officials in the Capitol?
So, our relationship with the state legislature and the state leaders and members of the legislature is very important. It's a very positive relationship. We get about 10%. It varies just a little from year to year. Sometimes it's 9, sometimes it's 11. But, for walking around numbers, the easy number to remember is 10% of our funds come from the state, and we funnel those to the schools and to the research mission. So, our current CFO and CFOs in the past have said things along these lines, that research and education are great missions, but they are bad business plans. But we enjoy very strong support from the state, and thankful for that. And as you know, we've got a nursing school under construction right now, a dental school under construction, and those were special projects funded by the state, which we are very grateful. I am in conversation with them about supporting the Cancer Center, because I think that this is something so important to the state of Mississippi. This will support all the citizens in the state and be a referral entity for all the other healthcare entities in the state. So I'm speaking with them about supporting us in this cancer journey as well.
Is that like an allocation of special funds, a one-time thing, or are you looking for an increase in the annual give?
So some sort of special allocation, whether it is a one-time appropriation or spread out over several years, that is typically, at least from my standpoint, the way I understand that, they would support a special project like this. They supported the children's expansion when we were building the Sanderson Tower, so they supported that tower with some funds over a couple of years, and we're speaking with leadership coming up, and have been speaking with them for several years as we have kind of ramped up to this. I have, in all of our appropriation meetings the last few years, I have said to them, this isn't the year, but coming up soon, I'm going to come back to you and ask you to support this cancer program. So this is the year that we're going to make the ask and hopefully get some support. They have supported us in a cancer appropriation for a number of years, and I feel like this is the next step, and it would really I think be a boost to the entire state and the entire economy of the state to have this in place. And certainly our federal delegation that really live and work with NIH and know what these institute designations mean to a community and to a state are very enthusiastic and very supportive. So we're hoping to see that same level of enthusiasm from our state leaders.
I was just thinking with a project this massive, it's so hard to spend the money and it's hard to raise the money. But once you get to the finish line of the project, has anybody ever looked back at the children's expansion and go, man, I wish we hadn't done that?
Oh, my goodness.
It's like people are so proud of it, and it's like it hurt to get there, but...
And I think our biggest cheerleaders in that space are the pediatricians around the state who send their patients to us for whatever level of expertise they need, and then we send their patients back. You know, we are not in this space to shut down anybody else who's taking care of cancer patients. We need more, in fact, people taking care of cancer patients around the state. But we can add that expertise that they don't have. We can add the research component, the clinical trials, and, of course, the training component. I mean, that's critically important. So we're excited about this and excited about the possible expansion too. 60
seconds left. What's on your to-do list?
Make it all happen. Make it all happen. Get us across that finish line. That's it.
Maybe UMMC needs to be buying Powerball tickets. You know, it's up to $500 million now.
Maybe so. I could use $500 million. Let me tell you.
Would go a long way. Always appreciate your time. Dr. LouAnn Woodward, thanks for joining us in studio this morning, and wish you continued success.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Mornings with Richard Cross, Super Talk Mississippi. That's going to do it for us in the 7 o'clock hour, but we have an hour remaining with you. We're going to explore this relationship that the United States has developed and is developing with the largest chip maker in the world, NVIDIA. And then AI privacy concerns. Whoever could have seen this conversation coming? Thanks to Dr. LouAnn Woodward for joining us. A lot of good stuff happening at UMMC, and a lot is on the way. We'll keep an eye on that and continue to visit with her and others from Medical Center about progress and expansion and growth and all the good things that are happening. Glad to be with you this morning. It's Mornings with Richard Cross, Super Talk, Mississippi. The news is next, then 8 o'clock hour. Stay with us.
Took a jump through Mississippi. Muddy water turned to wine.
From Sumner to Summit to Summerall, Richard has something for you. Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk, Mississippi.
Thank you for being with us. 8 o'clock hour, sun's up, work started, school back in session. Great to be with you. For some people, this is normal, right? It feels like, okay, normalcy has returned. I don't know if there are any schools that haven't started yet. I know there were some that were starting today. Maybe a couple of days left for the summer for some. It's still just hard to wrap your mind around school the first week of August or the second week of August. Lance, I guess I'm not quite old enough to like if you put me in charge of the school calendar, the first day of school would be the Tuesday after Labor Day, and the last day of school would be the Friday before Memorial Day. We would go to school September through May.
I remember my birthday, which is coming up here, Saturday. We would always have a few weeks after that, it seemed, before we went to school. So it's definitely a little bit more accelerated.
Yeah, and when I say I'm not old enough to remember, I remember obviously late August starts for schools, sometime around the 20th or so. But so many schools have gone to a modified schedule. There's some that have gone to the year-round schedule, some that are doing a hybrid schedule. I think that's what the Oxford School District operates on where I live. They call it a hybrid model. So it's about 9 weeks in the summer, but they added a full week for fall break, and you get the full week at Thanksgiving and, 2.5 weeks at Christmas and spring break. And so, and supposedly, and I mean, I'm sure there are studies that would speak to this. It's more than anything about student retention. It's the argument that some educators make for the year-round schedule, and even the year-round schedule has 3 weeks or a month off in the summer, but that students retain more if they're not away from academic life for 3 full months. So I don't know, but to me, getting June, July, and August off and going to school from, basically the first week of September through the last week of May would make a lot of sense. But I haven't done any of those studies. This is Mornings with Richard Cross, SuperTalk, Mississippi. Glad to be with you this morning. You can join the conversation on the C Spire text line, 601-879-4395. Ready for your winning strategy? Here it is. Join C Spire. It's that simple. All the technology and support you need to succeed at home, at work, and everywhere else. Visit cspire.com today. C Spire, inspired by you. A reminder that the Not Fall Camp Tour rolls on this week from Starkville. Started off last week in Oxford at the library. Now we're headed to Two Brothers Smoked Meats in the Cotton District in Starkville. That's coming up on Wednesday. Tons of giveaways, including Genteel golf shirts and hoodies. We've got some hats to give away, golf hotel stays, and gift certificates to Philip M's from our friends at Pearl River Resort. It's the Not Fall Camp Tour presented by Pearl River Resort, your destination for casino thrills, family fun, and live entertainment. Go to pearlriverresort.com for more information.
Bring an appetite, that's all I got to say.
There you go.
Amazing wings.
Some brisket.
Oh, man. I mean, just give me a plate of all the meats. I'll be ready to go.
C Spire text line, retention is not education. Retention is training. I mean, is that like Jack Handy deep thoughts?
I'm getting there, yeah.
Speaking of school starts, we've been forced to start in mid-July here in Starkville. It has been horrible. That's from Jason in Starkville. Josh
hot.
in Clinton says, my school started July 22nd this year.
That's just too early.
So, yeah, I mean, it is a different philosophy. It is a different mindset. To say that retention is not education, I would actually push back on that a little bit because in terms of, especially at the elementary school levels, first, second, third, fourth, maybe even fifth grade. In a lot of ways, I think you think about education as building blocks, right? The first layer is your foundation, and that's 1 + 1 = 2, and 2 + 2 = 4, and cat is spelled C-A-T, and just the basics as you begin the learning journey. And then on top of 1 + 1 = 2, you add, 6 divided by 3 = 2, and 100 divided by 10 = 10. It's layers, and so, at least in theory, not taking a break as long between when you finished 10 + 10 = 100 before you start 100 divided by 10 = 10, I think that makes some sense. And if that's...
I mean, what is education? Really, it is learning, right? Learning is getting information, getting someone else's experience, and trying to master, what it is. And that means you got to actually recall it. So there is a lot of memorization early in education, especially so that those processes can add up. It's like building a house. You got to put the foundation down. You got to have the plumbing in and everything ready to go so you can build this house on top of a stable foundation. So retention is a major part of education in my mind. And I have to deal with that every day what can I retain?
And look, I mean, it's one of the differences that exist between traditional education and classical education, right? I mean, if you look at the way those classical education programs work, there's a lot of memorization in there.
Well, Plato, that's what he basically asks you to do out of the gate is you got to learn to memorize things extremely in depth so that you can understand the argument as we move forward. How can we take both sides of an argument? I mean, that was one thing in logic you always learn and debate is being able to debate either side of any type of topic, not just the one you agree with, but learning it constantly and thoroughly so that you can have an educated opinion, whether it's on one side or the other, but being able to debate it in the middle is always part of the retention of the information that you learn. You got to hold it so that you can process bigger ideas later.
Our friend with the deep thought saying education is the ability to apply learned foundational concepts to life and intellectual pursuits. Yeah, I completely agree with that. When you're 17, 22, 35, and 54, when you're 4 years old, it's building the foundation. When you're 9 years old, it's, adding to that foundation.
We're splitting hairs, I think, a little bit.
Richard, you just lost all of your audience under age 35 when you did math in your head.
Paul would always tell me, don't do math on the radio. I'd laugh and say, wow.
Well, I think
that people don't like it.
Fairly simple.
No,
I mean, we were dividing by tens and adding with our fingers. Just kind of the point that I was making.
Yeah.
This is a really fascinating story to me. It came from the Wall Street Journal. Was published yesterday morning. NVIDIA and AMD, Advanced Micro Devices, have agreed to give the Trump administration a portion of the sales from their AI chips to China, which are unusual agreements that deepen the relationships between these two companies and the federal government. Do you ever remember hearing about a relationship like this? The Trump administration, and it's fascinating to me that it is written this way, that it's the Trump administration that is received. They get credit for doing the deal, but it's the federal government that is receiving 15% of the sales as part of a deal to approve exports of NVIDIA's H2O AI chip to China. And that could amount to billions of dollars given to the United States for the H2O chips. And it's another way that the White House is trying to raise revenue. It is an altogether different concept, completely different way of doing things than we traditionally have seen. Right? What have the revenue sources been for the United States for as long as most of us can remember? Those revenue sources have been your pocket and my pocket, your paycheck and my paycheck, our employers, taxes. Now, there are other sources of revenue for the United States, but they're not nearly as varied as those revenue sources that exist in private business. You think about private businesses. What do you do to build revenue? Well, are there areas that we should expand? Are there companies that we should acquire? Are there new lines of business that we should add that kind of fall within our area of expertise? Yes, and yes. All in the name of growing revenue. And yet the United States has not really been in that business. We've heard talk about a sovereign wealth fund even for the United States. Let's talk more about what this might mean coming up next.
From the Bendable Glass.
Morning, partner. The sun is up, the coffee is on, and you're starting your day right. Mornings with Richard Cross here on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
What's different about us? I don't really know. No matter how I try, I just can't make her cry.
So there are people that are questioning whether or not this relationship between NVIDIA or AMD and the federal government is a good idea. But Lance, we've talked about this over and over and over. When you find yourself in an unfortunate debt situation, there are two ways to get yourself out of it. One of them is stop spending and pay down the debt, and the other is to generate more revenue.
Well,
so you can pay down the debt.
Yeah, you can also manipulate interest rates. I mean, if we're really getting in detail.
Well, yeah, but
you know what I'm saying?
At the most basic level, you either spend less or make more.
There you go.
If you owe somebody $1 million or $100,000 or $10, you can either spend less so that you can pay that debt off, or you can make more so that you can pay that debt off and continue to live the way you live. I think we as Americans, and certainly we as the federal government, our federal government, has proven an inability to stop spending.
Yeah.
And not only are we not going to stop spending or slow down spending, we will increase spending because that's kind of what we do. So you better figure out a way to make more. And that has been the philosophy of this administration. We're going to make more. How are you going to do it? Well, we're going to tariff. And that has already generated, over $100 billion. And now it says, well, we're going to collect billions of dollars by taking it's almost like a commission or an export. I mean, you call it whatever you want to, but a
finder's fee, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if a chip costs $1,000 and you get 15% of the sale, then $150 of it's going to you for every single chip that's sold. Now, you might ask the question, I thought we didn't want China to get these super advanced chips. Well, the way it's told here in this Wall Street Journal article is we're kind of giving them a dumbed-down version of the chips. The H2O chip is not as powerful as the, Blackwood? I think that's the name of the newest chip that is Blackwell. The latest, most powerful chip that NVIDIA has produced is known as Blackwell. The H2O chip reportedly isn't advanced enough to quickly train large language AI models, but is useful for inference functions or the processes by which models that have already been trained can draw conclusions from new data. I mean, is that like saying we're giving China Ataris while we're playing with an Xbox? I don't know if that's the exact comparison. Maybe they're getting like a Super Nintendo while we're playing Xbox. I don't know. Thomas says Trump is spending 19% more than Biden. How is this MAGA?
As you just said, I understand Thomas's point, and definitely worrisome to spend more money. But if you're bringing in twice as much than you're spending, then you've, in essence, reduced spending. I mean, if we're splitting hairs here, so if he's spending 19% more, but yet revenue's up by 40%, aren't we talking about kind of a wash, netting it out? Yeah, I mean, I get where you're going, Thomas, and I'm an extreme fiscal conservative. I hate seeing us spend more and more money, but sometimes you got to spend money to make money, and I think that's how this president sees it, and that's what we're doing. I mean, you've got to invest into things in order to get a return out of the backside.
The other thing is, and I think this goes along with the conversation, are we, and when I say we, I'm talking about the United States, leveraging all of the resources that we have available to generate revenue? And the answer to that is absolutely not.
We're working on it, it looks like.
It does appear that we're working on it.
But there's a long way to go with this. This is not a 6-month solution. And tariffs, as I said all along, short term, I'm okay with tariffs. You get yourself back on level playing field, and you get back to the drawing board later after things in power and leverage, and you're holding it. What? But, yeah, tariffs over the long term, I don't believe have made anyone rich. But at the end of the day, yes, these tools that he's using are the ones you have in the toolbox. It's not like you have unlimited tools as a president. You do not. You've got to go with what you got. And he's using those tools, and honestly, I think probably better than anyone else has. You got illegals going out. You got business coming in.
Yeah.
And, that's what we're looking at here. You can't look at it's so large. I mean, you're getting rid of the things that are costing you a lot. You're trying to bring some things back in that are giving you more. And you start netting things down a little bit in the long run. You start looking at this going, okay, we're in better position. Now, interest rates. What if you drop rates a half point? What does that do to the debt? Here we go. We're starting to look at 2 or 3 things that are working in your favor now, not just 1 or 2.
And it sounds like the Fed is finally going to drop rates.
At some point.
There was a report this weekend that the first drop was coming and that there were going to be 4 more drops before the end of the year. Now, will that actually happen? I don't know. We'll see.
So they're looking at, my speculation on that would be if you're talking 4 different drops between now and then, you're looking at a quarter each time.
Sure. So you get a point, maybe a 1.5 drop between now and the end. Probably not a 1.5, depending on what the first drop is.
Yeah, if they get to the first drop, if not, it may be 75 basis points to a point. But
you know what that would spark?
A lot of lending and a lot of home buying.
It would spark a lot of lending, but it would also spark a massive refinance boom.
Sure. Yeah, it's buying.
We got some mortgage bankers out there.
That would be locked.
That are saying, please, like you don't have to drop it 3 points, no. But if you would drop it 3/4 of a point, it would spark a refinance boom.
Well, and I don't have the numbers directly in front of me, and I'll find those for tomorrow, but per every 1 point drop in interest rates, what does that do to people looking to purchase property? How much more do they have in the credit ability, the leverage there to go buy something? Well, it's significant. It is extremely significant. 1 point could be $150,000. So it could. The bigger the purchase, again. So we're looking at things where it frees up a little more capital as well to get out there and purchase things that people have been looking at, waiting for that right opportunity. So I think you would see the real estate market too would probably take a nice little bump on the upside as you come into the fall, where this is the huge building and buying and selling time. So, but I think you would see a little bit more stimulation going into the winter months in the housing market, which usually it slows down a good bit.
Yeah,
it could be a very good idea to hold off a little bit in the rate drops so that you may get a little bit more stimulus through the winter months for the housing industry. That's just a thought, but because, like I said, usually housing dries up pretty quickly as the months get cold, especially in the north, where you're sloshing around 2 feet of snow.
I was trying to do a quick search on real numbers.
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious what the average price of a house is.
Nationwide, I guess $350 average. 300 range. It depends. It's so case sensitive to the market you're in.
Absolutely, absolutely. Buying a house in Oxford is different, significantly different than buying a house in
Pelahatchie or
Pelahatchie. Yeah. There you go. Average price of a new single-family home in the United States in 2025 is $501,000.
I think if you take the big market numbers out of that and you look at where, what is the average market outside of a major metropolitan center, I think you drop down probably about 150K is kind of what I've looked at. Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah, we're taking in the big, we're looking at apartments for $3 million and stuff like that most people can't afford. So
median prices by region: Northeast $487,000, Midwest $313,000, South $365,000, out West $628,000. So
that's better in line.
Yeah, but if you're talking about a $500,000 mortgage at 6%. On a 30-year note, you're talking about a $2,500 a month house payment. If the interest rate drops a point to 5%, and again, this is just using really round numbers. Really round numbers. But if it drops a point, you're looking at, what, a $2,100, $2,200 a month house payment?
Mm-hmm. Now multiply that out over 30 years to $400 in savings, and you get a good idea of the actual amount of home you can purchase. Yeah.
I mean, two ways you can look at that, right? I mean, that $400 a month savings or $300 a month savings, it's either $3,500 to $4,500 cash in your pocket that gives you more buying power and other things.
Yeah, the buying power and leverage opportunity is what exists there. That extra $400 now is gravy instead of in the red.
Or it gives you the opportunity to buy more house if you need more house for the same amount of money. Or it gives you the ability to, if you're used to spending a certain amount, making an extra payment or two
there you can do the 15
on your house, and now you start, maybe you go with a 15-year mortgage, or you just shave years off your 30-year mortgage. There are a lot of different things that you can do with that extra money. So we'll be watching that rate, potential rate, closely from the Fed. And mortgage rates are not directly tied to the key Fed rate, but they are closely related. JT Mitchell will join us from the SuperTalk Mississippi News Team next.
From the SeabrookPaint.com.
No matter where you're from, Abbeville, Batesville, DeIberville, or any other ville in the SIP, you're starting your day off right. Mornings with Richard Cross. SuperTalk Mississippi.
Glad to be with you. Mornings with Richard Cross. Half an hour left. JT Mitchell joining us from the SuperTalk Mississippi News Team. Just quickly what Grok told me during the break, comparing these. And look, this is a very unscientific version. It doesn't include taxes and insurance, which obviously have to be added to your monthly mortgage, whether you pay them out of escrow or you pay them in a lump sum. Average monthly payment on a $500,000 mortgage, which we said was the national average, at 6.5% on a 30-year traditional note, is $3,158 a month plus taxes and insurance. If you drop that rate from 6.5% to 5% on a 30-year note, you're talking $2,600, almost $2,700, so a $500 a month savings. And Lance, if you go back to that crazy time when people were financing houses for 30 years at 3%, that's a $2,100 a month payment or $1,000 a month in savings. I mean, it is real money. Now, there are people that are pointing out other factors, right? You do a refinance, it triggers an appraisal, your property value has gone up, then, maybe you're paying more in homeowners insurance for replacement costs or your taxes go up. Yeah, I understand all of that.
We were just talking about what you can afford, yeah.
Yes.
When rates drop, what happens to your ability to borrow?
And Thomas said, well, what about the price of houses? You remember the last time that rates were cut and,
Well, there's more to do with, there's called supply and demand there.
Yes, yes.
You
There are
deal
a lot
with
of
that.
layers here. A lot of layers here.
Well,
but the bottom line is...
homes, the price of homes are going to go way up if you don't have enough of them. So
yeah. But, JT, the bottom line is if the interest rate goes down, so does your payment. That is...
JT likes that. Yeah.
That's math.
As someone who recently refinanced, I can second. That's the bottom line.
Yeah. Recently? Like how recently?
Probably 6 months ago.
Oh. So you found a better rate then than where you started out?
Well, I can't say I did. My wife did.
Fair enough. No, but I'm in the exact same boat, right? I mean, we had to do a financing on our house not too terribly long ago, and, a rate that's in the neighborhood of 6%, and I'm watching closely for, does it get to 5.5%? Does it get to 5%? Because I want to save money.
That's right. And we bought our house when the interest rate was high, but home prices were a little bit lower with the idea that we would refinance, which we did. And now everything is right.
There you go. And you'll refinance again when the numbers make sense.
We absolutely will.
Yeah. You hope to, the preference is to ride the wave down, not ride the wave up. Sometimes our timing doesn't work with that. But you were on the road at least some this weekend, right? Night of Champions at Delta State. Mike Matheny was the featured speaker. We've talked about that a lot over the last couple of weeks leading up to that event. How was it?
Man, I cannot give a bigger shout-out to Delta State, to Mike Matheny, to everyone that put in effort to make that event happen. So this was the second annual A Night of Champions at Delta State, and it benefits their athletic program. Last year they had Archie Manning. Hard to beat that. This year they had Mike Matheny, and I may have gleaned more from Matheny. I gleaned a lot from both, but Matheny was it was such a thought-provoking conversation. I didn't realize that he almost died last year. He had a brain bleed that he said the doctors pretty much called him a miracle. They had his family come say goodbye to him.
Oh, wow.
And he talked about how he now looks at life through a different lens. And he kind of provided us the blueprint of that lens. He gave us 5 words to think about during our day-to-day life. Growth was number 1. Always try to grow. Try to learn every single moment by reading or having conversations with others like you and I are doing right now, and have a competitive edge to you when it comes to getting better. Right was the second word. Try to be right. Try to make every decision you have, try to make the right choice. Inevitably, human beings will make mistakes, but if you make that right choice, for example, if you see a shopping cart that was just left in the parking lot and you say, hey, I'm going to push it in, your mistakes will naturally lessen. I thought that was great. The third word was love. And he said this was the most misused word in the human language, was love. Everybody's like, oh, I love that piece of pie, or whatever it is. He said, no, love is loving not only the people around you, but loving where your boots are right now. If you can love where you are and what you're doing, life will be better. The fourth word was fight. Fight for your friends, your family, and your team no matter what. And then the fifth word was serve. Serve others without a reward in mind. Do it selflessly. And if you follow those 5 words, he says life will get better. It has for him. And so I thought it was, I just gave you the synopsis, but I thought it was a fantastic event.
Outstanding. Outstanding. And a different speaking style, right, than when Archie Manning was there. Primarily from a speaking standpoint, it's kind of a Q&A conversation, sit-down deal when it's Archie Manning or if he's speaking with his sons. And this is more of a kind of a traditional speech, right, where he stands up and goes through his message.
That's right. Archie was a sit-down with Langston Rogers, and Mike just got up there and got rolling. There was a sit-down portion at the end, but everything I just talked about was when he got up there. I mean, it kind of was like he's a preacher. It was really good stuff. And somebody asked me, so he's a motivational speaker now? And I said, well, it's not in the cheesy sense. It was the opposite of cheesy. I mean, this is a former MLB player and manager up there talking about his stories from not only the ball field, but like I said, the hospital room or wherever it was. And it was a great event. If you did not go this year or last year, I highly encourage anyone out there to consider getting a ticket for next year.
Very cool. Visiting with JT Mitchell. He's the news director with the SuperTalk Mississippi news team. If you're not following them, whether it's by going to the website daily at supertalk.fm or following along on X, you're missing out. Hope you will keep up with them. We talked about this a little bit in our news headlines earlier this morning, but former Mississippi inmate and now current Mississippi inmate, at least for the time being, Joshua Zimmerman, who escaped in 2024 and was later caught in Chicago, is back behind bars now with a half-a-century sentence, but there's more on the way in other places.
He will never see daylight outside of a prison courtyard again. That's pretty much fact of the matter. If you remember last year, it was around this time, I guess a couple weeks ago to the date, this became a national story. This guy, Joshua Zimmerman, broke away from custody outside the DeSoto County Courthouse, and he got a ride with somebody to Memphis, and he was in the wind. It took 2 months for them to find him in Chicago, but between that time, we got word that there was help from the inside. There was camera footage from the courthouse purposely deleted. And so it was hard to find him. The U.S. Marshals finally found him in Chicago on the west side. He then barricaded himself inside a closed seafood restaurant. He was there for 15 hours. They finally got him when he was hiding in the ceiling. and they got him back to Mississippi.
Gracious.
Oh, it was, and at the same time, the DNC was happening a couple blocks away.
Yeah.
And so, of course, AP and others picked it up that there was a police standoff just blocks away. I think the DNC even had a temporary lockdown because of this, and it all, of course, traced back to Mississippi. And so they got him here, and he was originally facing charges in Mississippi for shooting someone and then driving them to the hospital. He got sentenced to 55 years on state charges. As you mentioned, more is coming because he faces federal charges for the escape. He faces a murder charge in Texas. And then
did he also take his victim to the hospital there or just left him? I'm sorry.
I'm
sorry.
Seriously, I haven't heard that one. I mean, I don't know if he has immediate guilt after shooting someone that he takes him to the hospital.
I shouldn't have done that. Let me just...
Yeah. And he also has some charges that are unresolved in Connecticut. And so 55 years in Mississippi, like I said, my bold prediction is when this other stuff happens, he will never leave prison again. And Dog the Bounty Hunter, speaking of it, he got in the mix and tried to find this guy during his 2-month escape. It was a big story nationally. Gracious. And so it kind of culminated last week.
What about the Rankin County deputy that was injured in a car crash recently?
Yeah, and so this is a little more of a feel-good story. It had not a happy beginning, but you and I talked about it a few Mondays ago that Rankin County Sheriff's Deputy Jalen Parker was responding to a burglary call in the Robin Hood community, and he was going, he had his lights on, his sirens on, car pulls out in front, hit a wreck. Here we are 17 days and 1 surgery later, and the good news is that Jalen Parker has been discharged from Methodist Rehab. He'll still be out a couple months, but he is making strides toward his return to active duty.
Very good. We've got more coming up with JT Mitchell from the SuperTalk Mississippi News Team as we wrap things up on this Monday morning. On the other side of this break, you've got it locked in to Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi.
From the Venable Glass Trap.
Important stuff. Your VIP pass to hear what the most influential Mississippians are talking about. This is very important. Huge news. Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk Mississippi.
We both knew it was just a matter of time. Living our dreams, oh, you on top. My mind is aching a lot, it won't stop. That's
Mornings with Richard Cross. Glad to be with you, whether you're listening on a SuperTalk Mississippi radio station, online at supertalk.fm, on the app. Maybe you're following the video stream. However, wherever you have made us a part of your morning, we say thank you. JT Mitchell, as he does every Monday morning, hanging with us for the last half hour of the show. Talking some news headlines. Something that we mentioned earlier this morning. I don't know a lot of people know about this or not. The Rankin County Executive Committee is hosting their Lincoln Reagan Trump dinner tonight at the Sheraton Flowood Conference Center and Hotel. And the featured speaker is Tommy Duff, and that is a name that has come up a lot in the political rumor mill about possibly a candidate for governor in 2027.
That's right. And politicians, I'm not calling Duff a politician yet, okay? But politicians, they speak at these events all the time. Now, what makes it interesting is when you have the state's richest man who may be mulling a run for governor, not only speaking at this event, but we've received word that there may be some national publications down here to cover the event.
Yeah.
That kind of gets the mind going a little bit.
Really going to be interesting because he has not had that I'm aware of any big headlining speech. How political will this speech be in nature? What are we going to learn about Tommy Duff? What's it going to be like tonight? Because the Rankin County Executive Committee is very much a political organization within Rankin County, very active group there, and so it's going to be fascinating to see how that plays out. We certainly will talk about that tomorrow morning.
Yeah, y'all will. And then we certainly will have an article tonight on the website after the event because Caleb Sailors will be there covering. The tables for this dinner are sold out. There may be some individual tickets left. However, if you can't make it or don't want to make it but want to know what's going on, go to supertalk.fm later tonight, and Caleb will update you on exactly what Tommy Duff says at the Lincoln Reagan Trump Rankin County dinner.
Very good. What else are we watching this week in terms of news in Mississippi?
Well, as of now, it's a good Monday morning because my inbox has not been flooded. My phone has not vibrated as much as it usually has. But if people want to get a little bit excited this week, and I'm sure y'all covered this in the 6 o'clock hour, or at least reminded people, is that 19 days from now, the FBS college football season will be underway. Ole Miss, Mississippi State, and Southern Miss. And that means the dog days of summer are over, Richard. I mean, I know you and Lance got to be stoked, right?
Does it necessarily mean the heat is gone?
No, it doesn't. It actually gets hotter. August is the hottest month, typically. And if you want me to further be the bearer of bad news, you lose about 40 minutes of sunlight throughout the month of August. And then we have the time change, and you don't see the sun just like our friend Joshua Zimmerman.
It's 40 minutes in the month of August?
That you lose in the southern part of the U.S. Now, the rest of the U.S., they have it even worse. They lose more sunlight naturally throughout the month of August.
I mean, obviously I knew that, I understand this is a factually inaccurate statement, but the way we describe it is the days are getting shorter. I mean, I knew that happened. It's happening right now this time of year. You know that, but I didn't realize that it was 40 full minutes during August. But there you go.
See, you learn fun facts when you have JT on the radio with you every Monday, right?
Absolutely.
Or some not-so-fun facts, contingent on the day.
Yeah, absolutely. Governor Tate Reeves is going to be on with us on Wednesday morning. I don't think anybody has said this publicly, but I feel like there have been just a little bit of allusion to a possibility of another special session. In any chance in your mind that could happen on school choice before the legislature reconvenes in January of 26?
Now, I don't, have my crystal ball in front of me, but I'd be shocked.
It seems unlikely to me. I do think, JT, that's going to be the single issue that we talk more about going into the 26th legislative session than any other.
Yeah.
But a special session seems unlikely.
And when you and I messaged this morning, I said, it was kind of a slow weekend in news. It wasn't slow for people on social media arguing about school choice. That may have been the biggest headline. And so now we're talking about, will there be a special session? I'd probably say not, but I think you're absolutely correct that come January, there's going to be a little more pressure to look into it.
Oh, there's going to be pressure to do more than look into it.
Well, we've been talking about school choice for a very long time now, it feels like. And every year I've heard politicians come in here and say, well, it's going to pass my chamber. We're going to look into it. We're going to get it done. And somewhere throughout the process, nothing happens.
Yeah.
But school choice is a complicated issue.
It is.
When you go from the transfer aspect to it to the vouchers for public money going to private schools.
Mm-hmm. That is something that we will get into. And I don't mean that in a bad way, but it's something we're going to discuss with the governor on Wednesday morning. In addition to continued economic development projects. Thanks for being with us on this Monday morning. For JT and Lance, I'm Richard Cross. This is MRC. We'll talk to you tomorrow.
A SuperTalk Mississippi media production.